All right, we're going to begin. So, lots of new faces in here. I love it. I'm Sifu Scott. I teach all the classes. I run all the meditation classes here. And the way we normally do this is we do a short talk, which for me could be a half an hour or more, but it'll be a shortish talk, and then we'll meditate together for the last little bit of class. And the topics vary every Thursday. So this Thursday, I'm going to talk about something that kind of came to mind the other day. I had a great question at the end of one of the kids' classes. So we just had a huge kids test today. We had a ton of people in class, and one of the techniques on their test was this really hard kick called a jump spinning back kick. And it's very difficult for me to do. It's definitely difficult for almost anybody to do. And somebody asked me at the end of class, one of the classes last week, she said, how can I perfect my jump spinning back kick? And first of all, the word perfect is not really going to enter into our vocabulary. It's very hard to do anything perfect, and most likely I would say it's never going to be perfect, which is great because you always want to have something to improve upon. But so I yelled at her for using the word. No, I was like, I don't know if you're going to get it perfect, but how we're going to improve on a really difficult technique, this is a very advanced, very complicated technique, is to go back to the basic. So you want to get a jump spinning back kick. First, you got to be able to do a regular back kick where you just look behind you and throw the kick. Then you can do it with a spin. Then you can do it with a jump. And each step there is a big leap, like literally at the end. It's very hard to do. So you're struggling with the difficult, more advanced movement, the more complex thing, you go back to the basics. And I went on this long rant with this kids class, and I was like, this is a great meditation talk, because I started talking about just going back to basics in life. And there are a lot of things that we'll talk about in this class that are maybe a little bit more like high level, a little bit more difficult to grasp. But if we boil it all down to basic concept, on some level, it's like all about going back to the basics of life, like doing the things that are the most basic to us. And breathing, for example, we were talking about just like sitting and breathing. This is meditation. It doesn't get much more basic than this. Yet these are things, these basics in life are things that we have a tendency to ignore. And we wonder why we're unhappy or unhealthy, or we feel like we have no energy, or we feel like all of life is going awry. And it's because on some level, we're not really paying enough attention to these basic things. So I'll talk a little bit about these things. I get a newsletter once a month from James Clear, is that right? The author of this book, Atomic Habits, which we didn't have for forever, but we finally have copies in the lobby. So if you want to get that, it's a great one. And this is one of the better newsletters that I've ever seen. It's second best only to ours. But he gives a great quote this week. He says, forget about peak performance. Would your results improve if you simply focused on being reliable in the normal moments? Show up when it's easy to skip. Do the fundamentals and do them well, and so on. Before you make it complicated, remember there are always simple improvements waiting to be made. And this is somebody who I don't know if he's ever done martial arts, but he clearly gets this idea. Super important to keep going back to the basics. And when we're talking about performance with anything in life, we can keep going back to the same concepts rather than focusing only on the high level, most difficult, complicated stuff that we're doing. Keep boiling it down to what is the most basic, and then build everything off of that. So there are a couple of basics in life that I want to talk about, and they are probably even more basic than you were thinking about. I'm going to boil them down to move, eat, sleep, drink, breathe. This is 5 things. I know it's a lot to remember, but I think we can handle it. So we have bodies. Most of our bodies can move. They're designed to move. We should move them. Generally speaking, we don't move enough. And in this country especially, but in countries around the world, we need more exercise. We need to move. We need to move in a way that is good for us, in a way that's healthy, that promotes, our joints feeling good, our muscles feeling strong. And of course, I'm biased. I think that martial arts is one of the best things to do, but there are lots of different things that you can do to move. Go out and run, go out and walk, go out and dance, do whatever, but move in a way that makes you feel good. And when I started martial arts, I had not done a lot of other physical things beforehand. So for me, it was like a big, awakening for me to learn how to move my body in a powerful, smooth way. Whatever this is for you, if you're not making time to move every single day, you're not going to feel great. And there are lots of different numbers that get thrown out about how often you really need to be exercising and what you need to get your heart rate up to and all of this stuff. And you should listen to people who know more about that than me. What I will say is moving is a basic part of our human experience. And if you move more generally, you will feel better. I can't tell you how many times people come in, especially after and during the pandemic, and we were doing classes only outside in the park. For a long time, it was only outside in the park with masks on, far away from everybody. We were like as careful as can be. And then a lot of people were just like feeling even that's not safe enough. And so they stayed home. And some people for years did not really exercise or do anything. And then they came back from it, and we got the shots, and people are starting to feel like, okay, this is something I can go out into public now. I can return to normal life. And they tell me when they come in for their first class, I have not done anything. It's been years since I've done any kind of exercise. And I mean, we could have done anything in your first class, just like do this. And it's like, I'm doing something. This feels great. Much better than just sitting on the couch. And we have a tendency to do a lot more than that. But you know for yourself, most people are unbalanced in the direction of not moving enough. So move. And if you're doing that, you'll feel slightly better. I've got these in order of things that I think you can do, the things that you can wait the longest for or do the least, to the things that you have to wait the least amount of time to do before you die. So moving is the first thing. You can wait a long time without moving before you die, but you are going to stop feeling good right away. It's the same thing with all these things. The second one is eat. Apparently you can go 3 weeks without eating before you die. I have not done that before. I don't know if any of you have. It sounds like a bad idea. You're going to start to feel real bad after not eating for a couple of days, at least, if not a couple of hours for me. But of course, there's something to be said about fasting. There's something to be said about what you're eating, how much of it you're eating, all of that stuff. But when we eat, it's the same thing as when we move, right? In class, we talk a lot about the details of how we move, and you're really trying to be mindful in your movement. It's the same thing in eating. Rather than just treating, I have a friend who was really trying to watch his weight for a long time, and he told me this. He's like, I have worked very hard to stop enjoying food. I shovel it in as fast as I can. I don't enjoy it, and I just like get up and leave the table as quickly as I can. And like on the one hand, I get that. I understand the tendency to want to not enjoy food, but really, what is life without enjoying food? I mean, food is delicious. It's amazing. It's what sustains us. So if we're going to do something like this, these basic things, we may as well really enjoy it. And you don't have to be eating at a 3 Michelin star restaurant to enjoy your food. You could eat something that is very basic and very simple. Just eat your cereal wherever you eat in the morning, and just eat it one bite at a time. And when you have that bite in your mouth, you're not like with the next scoop already ready to go. Like, let me cram this next one in there. Just chew and taste it. If you have not done this before, I will tell you, this is a mind-blowing, life-altering practice. Literally just eat your food one bite at a time and don't do anything else. You're not on your phone. You're not watching TV. You're not having a conversation. Nobody wants to talk to you while you're eating anyways. You're just eating. It's incredible. There's hardly anything better than just eating and enjoying that. So I'll leave it up to you how much you eat, all that stuff, but at least just try to enjoy it one bite at a time. Back to basics. Next one on the list is sleep. So they say you can go, the record I think is 11 days. I read 264 hours. The likelihood of you dying from not sleeping is fairly slim, but can happen. It's rare, but it happens apparently. But 3 to 4 nights without sleep, and you're going to start to go really nuts. And around 3 to 4 nights, you're going to start to hallucinate. I remember once when I was a kid, I was like, I'm going to stay up all night. I was like 10 years old, and I stayed up all night reading a boxcar children book. Some of you guys know what that is, but most of you are too young to understand this. And I got to like midnight, I think, and I swear I started hallucinating. I thought that my cat was talking to me, and I was like, I need to sleep right now. And I never did it again. And to this day, I don't stay up past midnight. Start to hear my cat talk to me. You start to hallucinate. You'll start to get cognitive impairment like all day long. You're irritable for sure. If I don't sleep 8 hours, I'm irritable. You start to get delusional, paranoia, and psychosis. All bad things. You don't want these things. So sleep. And there's a great podcast I like to listen to pretty often, the Huberman Lab. Some of you have maybe heard of this. This neuroscientist provides really basic, simple, important ideas. And one of them is that he literally references in every single podcast. This is a neuroscientist who knows lots about the brain and lots about health and all this. And he's like, you need to sleep. This is the thing that you need to do. Get 8 hours of sleep. Wake up in the morning, get sunshine, and then sleep at night. And this will take care of most of our problems. Now, if you're like me, sometimes your schedule is very weird. I'm, teaching until late at night. I can't start eating until late, and so I can't really go to bed until late. But then I just sleep in late, and you got to find a way to make your schedule work. Sleep. If you are sleeping enough, you will feel better. Now, some of you, I think, are too young to feel this way. When you get old like me, I'm 40 years old, you start to really crave and love a good night's sleep. Like, it's the most important and only thing that exists. If you've had a kid, you know the importance of getting a good night's sleep, and you're like, I can't imagine anything worse than this experience that I'm having of just not being able to sleep through the night. And I can't either. I'm sure I'm going to have to experience that someday. But if you have the ability to sleep regularly, do it. And there are lots of ways. People ask me all the time. Well, I do question and answer for the last Thursday, the first Thursday of the month. And very often people ask me, I know this doesn't have much to do with meditation, Sifu, but how do I sleep better? How can I get enough sleep? How can I improve the quality of my sleep? And there are a lot of things that science can tell us to do, but some of it is just as simple as don't be a jerk during the day, because then when you're laying there at night trying to go to sleep, you're thinking about all the things that you did wrong. Try to just live well. And meditation can help us with this. We can be more aware of the things that we're doing or not doing. Our interactions with people will improve. And instead of laying there just like running through your day and all the terrible mistakes that you've made, you'll feel pretty good about it. You can think like, all right, I can sleep sound. It's not that bad. Have some kind of a winding down process. Meditation is a great thing to do as you're heading into bed. Maybe you're listening to music, maybe you go on a walk, maybe you eat. Try not to eat right before bed. That's not very good for you. But have a process, have a ritual that you go through. And then when you arrive at the end of it, you're used to it. Maybe you're listening to one of my meditation talks and it puts you right to sleep. Great, whatever it takes. The next on the list is drink, water. So you can go a very long time without drinking other stuff, but water. 3 days without water, you're dead. And some of the first things that will start to happen are seizures. You don't want that. Swelling of the brain, kidney failure, shock, coma, and death. And it can go the other direction. You can drink too much water. This happened to one of our students. She was on a long hike in Australia, and she actually drank too much water. And I don't remember what this is called, but her brain started to swell. I think she had like water in her brain because she actually drank too much water. Now that is not going to happen to you because nobody drinks enough water, let alone too much water. But there is technically, clinically, a limit to how much you should drink. So you can research this. If you're going on a hike in Australia, you don't need to drink 3 gallons of water. But again, drinking the proper amount will make us feel better. Being dehydrated leads to all that terrible stuff that I said. And also, just when you're drinking the water, drink it. Just enjoy it. You're taking in life when you drink water. It's like literally the fuel that you need to make your body work. And If you drink water, like most of us, it's just like, this flavorless, just get it out of here. And maybe you're not feeling compelled to drink enough water, so do whatever you need to do. I am like that little girl from the movie Signs, which, if you've seen this, is a great film. I know Mel Gibson is not very popular right now, but this movie is spectacular. This little girl, this is not a spoiler for the movie, so you can go home and watch it tonight if you haven't seen it. But this little girl puts glasses of water like in every room of the house, and it turns out to be an important plot point later on. This is me. I have a glass of water that's filled with water in every room of the house, because if I need to drink water, I don't want to have to get up and walk somewhere else in order to get it, because I know that as a human being, I am lazy, as we all are. We are really wired to be as efficient as possible. So if it's like easier to drink the water than it is to walk past it, you're going to drink the water. And if you see it every time you walk into a room, you're like, that's right, time to drink that water, and you put it down. So little habits like that can really make it happen for you. The last on the list is breathing. 3 minutes without breathing before you die. Of course, it gets very uncomfortable before that. And this is the absolute epitome of this idea that I'm talking about, which is just enjoy the moment of the breath. Again, you're bringing in life every time you breathe in. And this is what meditation teaches us on some level more than anything else, is to appreciate the breath. Some of you have heard this before. If the breath is boring to you, if you don't feel exciting when you're meditating because watching the breath is slightly more exciting than watching paint dry, you can go for a swim and just go really deep underwater and just stay there for a while. And at some point, it's not going to take long, breathing is going to become incredibly exciting for you. There will be nothing more interesting to you than breathing. Please don't go so deep or so long that you die from this. But if you can't breathe for a while, it's going to become super interesting. That's not to say that in your meditation you should hold your breath. It's to say that if you dive into each breath and you try to feel each molecule of air coming in, this is going to be, again, a completely life-altering thing. I remember my first meditation class, and I remember first learning how to breathe in martial arts, either in Tai Chi or just in a meditation class, and I took my first deep breath from the belly. And it was the best feeling that I can ever remember having. We walk around all day long ignoring the breath. Of course, it's happening by itself. You don't really have to force yourself to breathe, but you do have to force yourself on some level to be present for the breath and to really appreciate and really breathe properly. So when we breathe in meditation, and we'll do a little bit of a breathing exercise when we actually start sitting, you want to be breathing deeply from the belly. And there is a lot of more recent science, these studies that show how important this is, how a deep belly breath helps to activate your parasympathetic nervous system, and how you're going to really cause your nervous system to fire correctly, just be more relaxed and calm. All that is great. But no matter how you're breathing, just focusing on the breath is great. That's a simple kind of first step kind of thing. And that's as basic as it gets. I'm sure there are more, I guess, like letting your blood flow in your body is more basic than breathing. But it's basically, for you, of the things that you can do and you can focus on, that's as basic as it gets. And I cannot think of a more important, wonderful, basic thing to focus on that will impact your life more than the breath. The quality of the breath and just placing your attention on the breath will absolutely change your life. So I'm going to read this quick story from Zen Flesh, Zen Bones. It's one of my favorites. I read it all the time, and I'm going to read it again tonight. So this one's called The Real Miracle. And I'm going to butcher all the names, I'm sorry. When Bankai was preaching at Ryomon Temple, a Shinshu priest who believed in salvation through the repetition of the name of the Buddha of Love was jealous of his large audience and wanted to debate with him. Bankai was in the midst of a talk, kind of like this. Thank you for not trying to debate with me, by the way. When the priest appeared, but the fellow made such a disturbance that Bankai stopped his discourse and asked about the noise. The founder of our sect, boasted the priest, had such miraculous powers that he held a brush in his hand in one bank of the river. His attendant held up a paper on the other bank, and the teacher wrote the holy name of Amida through the air, and it appeared on the piece of paper on the other bank. Can you do such a wonderful thing? Bankai replied lightly, perhaps your fox can perform that trick, but that is not the matter of Zen. That is not the manner of Zen. My miracle is that when I feel hungry, I eat, and when I feel thirsty, I drink. And it really is the miracle, right? We're given this body. It's miraculous that we're alive in the first place. If you're lucky enough to have a body that functions well and you can move and you can breathe and you can drink and you can eat and all that stuff, it is all a miracle. Another version of this story is in The Way of the Peaceful Warrior, which is a book that made me want to practice martial arts. And one of the things that sticks in my mind is the main character is a gymnast. He can do all this incredible stuff with his body. And so he meets this teacher named Socrates, who is a gas station attendant. And he asks him one day as they're talking, he's like, do something amazing. Show me something that's like a miracle. And so the main character, Danny, like clears out some space and he does a backflip and he sticks it. And Socrates is like, that's pretty impressive. That's pretty amazing. I'm going to do something even more impressive. And he just walks to the bathroom, shuts the door, comes back out a few seconds later. And I won't get into all the graphic details, but he's like, what I just did was, my body processed these impurities out of this liquid and I sent it out of my body and da-da-da-da-da. And it's like, the fact that we're able to do any of this is absolutely amazing. The basics, if we can learn to fall in love with the basics of life, then we will never be bored. We will never, be lacking for something to improve upon, for something to find that will help us to be anchored in life. So in martial arts, again, like I said in the beginning, we say this all the time. My Sifu loved to say that an advanced technique is a basic that's been mastered. So the jump spinning back kick is a nice fancy technique, but a real advanced technique is something that you are so good at that you can make it work every time. Bruce Lee said, I'd rather fight somebody who knows 1,000 kicks and has done them all once than somebody who knows one kick and has done it 1,000 times, because that is an advanced kick. That person is going to get you with it. So that's the way that you want to be with your breathing, with drinking water, with eating, with sleeping, and with moving, is make your most basic things your most advanced things. If you can be totally present with whatever it is that you're doing, if you can master just walking down the street, then you can be truly in the moment, and all of life can be like a meditation. You can really be present and happy with whatever it is that you're doing. So we're going to sit comfortably, and I know you guys have meditation cushions. I'm going to sit on this bench. I'll show you a couple of different ideas here. When you are sitting, you can sit seiza like I do on your knees. If you're going to do this with the cushion, you probably want to turn it up on its side. If you want to sit cross-legged, you can do that as well, but make sure that you're not sitting so uncomfortably that your legs are going to fall asleep. So for example, and you can just sit on the ground, by the way. You don't have to sit on the cushion. I just have old man knees, so I have to sit on something. So if your knees are even with or below your hips, then you'll be good. If your knees are really sticking up, that's not going to work. Again, if you guys are sitting on your knees, I suggest that you try flipping it up so that it's on its side, so that it's more narrow and higher. That's going to be better to kneel on. You don't have to sit on it that way, but you can try that. You would turn it sideways so that it's like widthwise in between your knees like that. And if you prefer to sit on it the way that it was before, or you want to sit cross-legged, that all works. Those are all kind of negotiable things that you can fiddle around with. You want your posture, besides that, to be more or less straight with your shoulders rolled back, but not tense. You're not rigid with your posture. You're basically just stacked one vertebrae on top of the next. Your shoulders about over your hips. Your chin is parallel to the ground, so we're not looking up and we're not looking down. We just have a nice neutral position with good posture. The hands are upturned. They can be together. There are lots of different positions that people like to use with the hands. They can be separate, but generally speaking, you want them palm up at your hips. if they start to slide down, especially if you're sitting in Seiza like this, then this is going to start to mess up your posture with your shoulders and back. So try to have your hands here settled, nice and comfortable. Close eyes. Your eyes are slightly upturned at the point between your eyebrows. This is distinct from having your eyes crossed. If you start to feel like you're having a headache in meditation, that's probably because you're crossing your eyes. So, or you could be dehydrated. So your eyes are slightly raised up, and you can do this by trying a couple of different things. One way is to just use your eye muscles and slightly raise your eyes. You can try to actually visualize the spot in the middle of your forehead, just above the eyebrows. And if that's not working, you can point and actually touch that spot with your finger and then feel that spot when your hand is back in place. Just feeling that spot will have your eyes raised up. But if those things don't work, you can open your eyes and look at a spot on the wall out in front of you that's above your head, and that will help you slightly raise your eyes. And that's all you're looking for, is a slightly raised gaze, so that you're not crossing, but you're also not looking straight ahead or down. So this eye position and this position of your body, your posture, is all going to be helping you stay awake. And the raised eye position is associated with a raised consciousness. From here, let's take a couple of deep breaths together. Start with all the breath out. We'll do a double inhalation, filling everything up, and then out. We'll do a more gentle, slow inhale through the nose. Hold it at the top for a few seconds and breathe out. You can breathe out through the nose or the mouth. Always in through the nose, out through the nose or the mouth. You want to breathe from your belly using your diaphragm. So as you inhale, the belly actually is going to expand as the diaphragm contracts down, bringing air into the lungs. Hold it again at the top for a few seconds and then release. Breath should be gentle but complete. Good full breath in from the belly. Good full breath out. Couple more breaths, trying to get your deepest, most complete breath without straining. You don't want any physical pain. You just want to feel like it's completely in and completely out. As you do this, you can count the seconds for your inhale and hold and exhale. So this is a breathing exercise. In a minute, we'll start actually meditating, but if you find that you're having a very difficult time focusing on the breath, you can come back to counting deep breaths like this. Do that for 5 to 10 breaths and then release it again. So what we want to do now is let go of any idea of what you're trying to accomplish, including manipulating the breath. You're just going to let the breath breathe itself. And now you can place your attention on what is breathing. So you can focus on the belly's movement as you breathe in, the expanding belly as you breathe out, the falling belly. You can feel the breath moving through the chest or moving through the throat. And you can also try to focus on the feeling of the breath moving in and out through the nose, or in through the nostrils and out through the mouth. So this is meditation. You're just sitting and breathing, allowing the breath to move by itself without judgment, without trying to manipulate it. And at some point, you'll notice your mind is wandering. And gently bring it back to the breath. Again, without judgment. Very commonly, people judge themselves for losing their focus and concentration, and they start to beat themselves up during meditation. That's not meditation. Just let it go. One way to release a thought without judging yourself is to just label it with the word thought. That way, it doesn't mean anything. You're just recognizing that you had a thought, and you let it go and return back to the breath. Continue focusing on the breath, returning to the breath as often as you can for the next few minutes. You find yourself being very uncomfortable with the position of your body. Try to reset your posture slowly and quietly, and then try to maintain that position. That's all we're doing, sitting and breathing.